It is Monday, February 3rd, 2025. This is another offseason edition of Baseball Today. That is my man, Trevor Plouffe. I am Chris Rose, producer Dan along for the ride as well. Hope everybody had a wonderful weekend out there. We had no football. That was a little weird. We'll get ready for a big game this coming weekend. We did have some sporting news, though, that shook.
We did.
Certainly Los Angeles and Dallas to its core and reverberated through the entire sports world with the huge trade of Luka and AD. And I think that got everybody that is even a marginal sports fan interested, right?
Yeah, I was at my good friend Peter Ma, used to play wide receiver at Harvard. He had a Chinese New Year's party. So we were all in the neighborhood, all hanging out. And, we're in Los Angeles, a lot of Lakers fans. That news came, and everyone was like, this is a joke. This isn't real. And then they saw that it was real. And seriously, the party exploded. Couldn't believe it. The Lakers have not been good. And now I think they're going to be better. I don't really know a lot about basketball, Chris, but people are very excited about it.
Yeah, they are. And it got everybody thinking about what in your favorite sport would be a similar trade, because you just don't see two all-NBA or all-anything players traded for one another. And so we threw it out, I think, on our Talking Baseball channel. One of our consumers, Mike Oliphant, said Bobby Witt for Bryce Harper. Pretty good one. I was thinking to myself, maybe a Gunnar Henderson for Mookie Betts. Talking about an up-and-comer, a guy who, he hasn't had the long standing that Luka has in his sport, but that sort of guy. I don't know. Anybody else?
I don't really follow the NBA. I don't know how good Anthony Davis is. Obviously, you've heard Luka Doncic's name a lot. I know AD's been good.
Yeah, he's still really good.
Still really good. So I would say, how about this? William Contreras for Salvador Perez. But there was a 3-team trade. There was.
Yeah. I love Salvi. No. The two guys that got traded. The two guys that got traded in the NBA are. You're talking about last year, 2 of the top 5 or 6 players in the league.
Oh, okay. Well, Salvi is always putting up counting stats, Chris.
Yes,
don't count Salvi out.
I know. I love Salvi, but when we're talking about listing the top,
I don't know basketball.
That's all. Okay, well, we can move on. We don't have to.
I like going to games.
Okay, that's fine. I was trying to equate it to the baseball side of things. People can leave a comment if you've got a good one for us.
What did Flaherty say? He said something like Tatis. No, Harper.
Yeah, Tatis for Harper. Yeah,
that good.
That one's not bad. I think that's actually pretty good. Speaking of your buddy Jack Flaherty, he's got not a new home, but a home. He returns to Detroit, the team with which he spent the first half of last season. It's a 2-year, $35 million deal, reportedly. He does have an opt-out after the first year. Does this feel like the best fit for him, or are you slightly disappointed that he didn't get a longer-term deal elsewhere? Or not disappointed. We know you're disappointed, but surprised.
Yeah, both those things to me are true. I think this was the best fit. I told him that last year when I was hanging with him in Detroit. I said, this is great for you, man. It's a great park. You like the coaching staff. You're having success. He liked living there. So everything added up. And I was surprised that he didn't get a long-term deal. This was a guy that already settled for a 1-year deal last year going to the Tigers. That was coming off a mediocre year, but he had a great first half with the Tigers, wins the World Series, has, a couple good outings in the playoffs, a couple not so good outings in the playoffs, but all in all, together, his year was fantastic, and he's a young guy. So, I was thinking 4 years at the minimum, possibly a 5-year deal, and now we're settled here with 2 years, which is $25 million for the first year, and they can get up to 20 with 15 starts this year. He can get up to 20 next year, which I assume if he has the kind of year that he thinks he's going to have, he'll go right back into the free agent market and try it again. But I don't really know what happened. This happens from time to time in free agency where we expect them to kind of get more than they end up getting. I don't know if it was, people thought that he might have issues with his back again because he had a couple injections last year, but he's been healthy all off season. He's a grinder. All he loves is baseball. It was interesting that there wasn't more out there for him, but I think he is in a really good spot. And I think, I'm happy for him. The guy's, he's going to, I told him last night, I said, dude, when you're 35 or 40, whenever you decide to retire, you're going to be, you're going to be loaded. You're going to have the respect of everybody. Like, you did it the right way. Like, things are going to be good. And he was, I think he was really happy. I think all along he wanted to go back to Detroit. Just like I said, he had a good time there last year. But my biggest takeaway is this is unbelievable for Detroit.
I agree.
Like, you traded him last year. You get your starting shortstop in Trey Sweeney. You get a catcher who's in the top 100 prospects in all of baseball. You make the playoffs, and you kind of have this upstart team. Then you get Jack back for essentially a 1-year 25. Like, things are good in Detroit.
Really good. I'll start with Flaherty. I can't believe that baseball sees him in the same light as Frankie Montas. I can't believe it.
It's interesting.
Frankie Montas got almost the same exact financial terms with the Mets as Jack Flaherty did with the Tigers.
Well, his AAV, the 25 this year is I think top 10 for starting pitchers.
Yes.
So there's that.
I understand that side of it. But when you're still measuring it, it's one isn't substantially different than the other is my point. And I see them as totally different pitchers. Like, Frankie Montas is a guy like, God, you pray you get 140 innings out of him. Jack Flaherty, I watched him pitch probably 10 times last year. And I was like, God damn, that's like 2019 Jack Flaherty. That's what I saw. And I agree with you. Just flipping it to the Tigers side of things, I think this is great for them because now last year, they basically had one starting pitcher in the playoffs. Let's be honest, right? It was Skubal. But now you fit the rest of this rotation, Flaherty, Cobb, Reese Olson, those four guys are locked in. And now you got an interesting battle for whichever way you want to go. Do you want Jackson Jobe to start the year with the Tigers? Do you want to leave him down a little bit more? I would start him based on what I've seen. I mean, that guy's just a baller. Casey Mize is the former number 1 overall pick. I don't know what his future is there. He feels like a depth piece at this point. Montero pitched great at times for them last year. I guess I got to say it. I'm having a hard time getting this out of my mouth. Are they the favorites in the division?
No, I mean, it's going to be a 4-team race. It will be. I think the Twins, despite them making absolutely no moves, I think they still
zero moves.
Like literally 0 moves. I still think that they have underrated pitching staff, and if they're healthy offensively, they can get the job done. And their bullpen, they have great back end of the bullpen guys. So I still like the Twins going into the season. Would have liked to see them do more. maybe they sneak in and steal Pete for a year. I don't know. Doesn't seem like that's going to happen. But Kansas City is much improved. Your Guardians are going to do what they do, and then also
somebody's got to be the favorite.
If I had to choose right now, I think I would choose the Tigers. But it's not like they're it's very all jumbled up. I have a question for you, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought this was such a Chris Rose question. I came up with it. I was talking to Jake about this earlier today. Do you think at some point, like say in September, Tigers are in a playoff, the playoff race, and things are all good. Do you think Hinch goes, let's pare it down to our top 3 starting pitchers and then bring back pitching chaos for the last month?
So I think in theory that works out fine. I think in reality, you don't know what sort of problems that can cause for guys the next year after they do it. And here's what I mean.
We're going to see.
Well, we've seen it a little bit. Remember when Terry Francona did this with Andrew Miller in 2016? When he had him pitching in every part of the ball game, and he really worked him.
He was like the first guy to do that, like exploit high leverage situations.
Exactly. And so the Tigers did it masterfully over the last 2.5 months of the year, where they basically, when you check out the rotation lists for the next 2 weeks, they only listed 3 starting pitchers on there, and then the rest of it they're going to figure out along the way, which sounds great. But at some point, people always told me, well, we're not going to know what this does to Andrew Miller till next year or 2 years from now. And sure enough, it showed up. Now, he was much more veteran than a lot of these guys are that are being asked to do this at this point in their career.
And
but
he's also one guy.
He was one guy. They didn't do it with an entire bullpen, so maybe you spread it out a little bit more. It's possible. It certainly worked for him, and he doesn't mind being labeled as the genius. that does
yeah,
it.
He loves that.
Yeah, he does.
Well, who doesn't love that, for being honest? I don't mean to.
No, but I mean, he does. He likes that side of it. He likes.
What's so genius about that? Hey, I got this really good
Well,
pitcher, and he matches up really well against this part of the lineup. You go pitch. That, to me, isn't very genius. That's like, okay.
Except that 29 other teams aren't doing it.
I believe that pitching, I've said this for a long time, I think pitching is going that way. I think we will not have 5 starters. 200 innings is not the plateau anymore. 180 innings is not the plateau. Like, we will start to pare down where we're piggybacking guys a ton, and we might end up having 8 guys who we consider quote unquote starters, openers. We might even change the term. Like, it's going that way.
And like I've told you this in years past, that decision is twofold. One is it probably helps you on the field, and it definitely helps you in the payroll. You
Cheaper.
when you don't have to pay a guy $35 million a year to make 30 starts. Hell yeah. Sign me up. I'll pay some guy $10 million a year to give us 60 games. Awesome. I'll do it. Sign me up. I'm here for it.
And he's got like absolute dogs in the bullpen too.
He
Like,
does.
I don't know. Come on.
He's got a great. It's going to be fascinating. Last thing, and we'll talk about Alex Bregman a little bit later. Do you think the bringing back Flaherty helps, hurts, or has no effect on them going after Alex Bregman?
It shouldn't have had an effect on it, but I think it helps that you're like, okay, like, look, we think that we're the best in this division now. If we bring Alex in, then we think that we really have a shot at a World Series.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's still question marks with the offense. They have a couple, they have some guys in there that can do it, but you add a guy like Alex Bregman with it's a young team, right. Especially on the offensive side. Like, you add the experience, I think it helps a ton. I mean, I hope they go. First of all, on our free agent draft, I did have Flaherty going to the Tigers. The years are not what I predicted.
It's okay. Bregman, you nailed one. You nailed one. Okay, let's move on. The World Champs had their fan fest this weekend. Sounded like the logistics were a bit of a nightmare for fans trying to get in and out of that thing, but welcome to Dodger Stadium. However, once they did get to see their favorite Dodger players, that was great. It shows up. There's nobody you're like, oh, wait, where's that guy? No, like they all show up, and that included Shohei, who did give us kind of a health update. Not only is he coming back from the elbow issue that cost him an entire year of pitching, but he also injured his shoulder in the playoffs, and he had to have that checked out. Here is his interpreter on what's next for the big show.
The schedule of how things will progress will actually really depend on what kind of injury I sustain, like in the shoulder. But as of now, seems like, I'm on schedule. I've been able to work out every day, and, I'm really looking forward to being on time for spring training.
So they're going to know a bit more when camp starts in about 10 days or whatever it is for the Dodgers. It sounds like middle to late May for the pitching, which is going to be interesting because doesn't he have to then go out on rehab assignments, which would take him out of the lineup? Not that that's a huge difference, but
I don't think
at some point he's got to go pitch, doesn't he?
I think it's going to be more like high intense bullpens and maybe some. Yeah, no, I'm serious. I think I don't think he'll exit Major League Baseball to go do a rehab for starting. They'll bring guys in for him to pitch at the stadiums.
All right. And then that's good enough. Like, you don't need the adrenaline rush of
Shohei Ohtani, it's good enough.
Okay.
And the yeah. I mean, hey, maybe they will, Chris. Maybe they'll say, hey, look, obviously we're going to make the playoffs. Like, why don't you go take some times off your legs and just go focus on pitching? Maybe you're right.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're thinking. To me, it doesn't make sense, but if they want to rest him and say, let's just take 2 weeks off in April or May, okay.
Yeah. The bigger question with Shohei is that he's going after his 4th MVP award. Has he now reached the point where he has to do something astronomical yet again? Last year he goes 50-50 and is a 9-WAR player even without throwing a single pitch or playing any defense. And everybody goes, oh, God, that's incredible. Or is it just good enough to be a 35-homer guy and a 3.5 ERA type dude in 18 starts? Can he win a 4th MVP doing that?
In my mind, yes. I mean, there's nobody more valuable than that. Those two, what you just said, like 35 homer guys, how many are there in the league? I would say guess maybe 15 guys. Like people that throw to a 3.5 ERA, maybe 15 guys. I don't know. Maybe those numbers are off, but I personally don't think he has to go out and do something phenomenal. He's just that much more valuable than any other player. And it's just the truth. I mean, Chris, this guy's got a 945 career OPS and a career ERA of 301. It is insane what this guy does. And I've said that all along. So people are probably sick of me, quote unquote, glazing Shohei. But it's the truth, man. Like nobody's doing what this guy's doing. No one's probably ever going to do it again. So in my opinion, no. He doesn't have to go out there and lead the league. And he's not going to lead the league in strikeouts because he's starting late. But he doesn't. I think if he's just who he is, he's going to continue to rack up these MVPs. And you can be mad at it if you want, but I think a better mindset is just to sit and watch this guy and, be amazed by him because that's what he is. He's amazing.
So do you know his home run totals the 3 years that he has won MVP?
Ooh, I have his page up. I'm not going to look at it.
Just give a guess. He hit 54 last year. So how about the other two?
I want to say 41 and 36.
46 and 44.
Oh, he's 40 both years.
Yeah, that's no joke. That's no joke. And that's while he was pitching in Anaheim. Those 2 years that he won the MVP with the Angels, he made 23 starts each year. His ERA was under 3.2 in those years. He basically had a K rate of 11 per 9 in those years. Those are some gaudy numbers, man.
They are.
You don't realize.
That's who he is.
I know it is who he is, but what if he just makes 18 starts and a 3.5 ERA, which is still amazing for a guy who swings the bat for a living? Like, how great does we all think that his numbers are going to go down hitting because he's going to be pitching again. Nobody here expects him to be a 50-50 guy. If he's a 40-40 guy, is that good enough? I mean, it's got to be, right?
It is. I mean, I'm looking up this last year. How many guys had a 3.5? I mean, I can't really do it right now. I'm thinking on the fly here. Maybe Dan can look it up. How many guys, starting pitchers, had a 3.5? We can't have Shohei fatigue, guys. Just don't get Shohei fatigue.
Right. Well, that'll be up to the voters. And, I thought there wasn't anybody that really pushed him. Like Lindor had a great year, but none of his numbers. I think a lot of what he did kind of, he had big moments for the Mets, obviously, to get them back into contention after somebody had declared them dead at the end of May. So a lot of his stuff wasn't totally numbers driven when you were talking about him finishing second for the MVP award. But nobody was up there. It wasn't like Aaron Judge, Bobby Witt.
Sure.
Juan Soto. It wasn't like that.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's a couple guys that could push him. Like Juan Soto can push him. I think like a healthy Bryce Harper and like just name value and what he can do on the field could push him. Dan just got back to his 24 qualified starters at a 3.5 or lower.
I mean, that's amazing. It's amazing. We can't just look at it and say, "Oh, well, Shohei was okay at 3.5."
That's what I'm saying, dude. I think every year you have to wipe what he's done before, just wipe it out and don't think like that, and just say, let's look at this year and compare it to like things that have happened before, and you'll be like, oh, it's never happened before.
So give us the baseline. What would be the bottom part of Shohei winning a 4th MVP? Leave a comment in the section.
Yeah, we've tried to do that before on the show. It's tough.
It is tough. It's very tough. It's a challenge. We got more coming your way, but first, Trevor Plouffe with this word.
Yes. Baseball Today brought to you by DraftKings. Super Bowl 59 is right around the corner, and it's the perfect time to get in on the action with our partners at the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, they're offering all new customers $200 in bonus bets instantly after betting just $5 when you use the code BASEBALLTODAY. Scoring touchdown is key to hoisting the Vince Lombardi Trophy, and you have a shot to score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one place to bet touchdowns. You're going to be watching the game anyway. Might as well have a little sweat on it. Download the DraftKings Sports app now. Use code BASEBALLTODAY. That's all one word, BASEBALLTODAY. Bet just $5 on any wager and get $200 in bonus bets instantly. That's code BASEBALLTODAY. Only at the DraftKings Sportsbook. The crown is yours.
All right, more Fan Fest fun in Southern California with the San Diego Padres. They had their get-together. Some of the stars were on hand, and that included Manny Machado, who raised a few eyebrows with this stance on San Diego's offseason.
Look at the guys that we have in here. Are we disappointed we haven't made any moves? Yeah, I think, as a team, we kind of look up there and you're a little disappointed that, we let some of the guys that were a core group here, kind of go elsewhere. But at the end of the day, we can't control that.
Do you like the way that he took to the mic and said what he said?
Absolutely. I mean, you have to be a guy to be able to do that. You probably better have a long-term contract to do that. But it's the truth. I mean, it's the truth, Chris. And I've been a defender of the Padres and saying I still think they have a very good roster. And I still think they're going to be one of the best teams in the National League. And I don't think that the ownership quarrel will be as big of a distraction as a lot of people think. Now, you already how many people did they let go? They let Profar go, Ha-Seong Kim go, Tanner Scott go, Higgy go. That's a lot of people. If they start talking about Dylan Cease and Michael King, that's when I'll be out on the Padres. I mean, they've already done a lot to kind of like hurt their chances and haven't brought a ton in. But if they start going that way, I think he has every right to call him out. It's you set this team up and he signs their long term, and all these a bunch of guys have signed their long term. And when you do that, like the organization, probably made them promises. This is what we're going to do. This is the window we're going to be in. All these things. And I understand there are circumstances that are going on that are maybe they were unforeseen at the time. But I mean, it's not fun to lose in the big leagues. Now, I understand he's making a ton of money, but you get that taste of winning, and that you could have had Profar back there for $42 million. Like, that seemed like a no-brainer to me, and now you don't have him. Like, it's Tanner Scott, I kind of get. It's a lot of money to pay for a reliever, but I don't know, man. I think it's fine calling them out like that, and if they continue to just cut and cut and cut, that's when I have to reevaluate my stance on the Padres.
Well, obviously the biggest thing changed, and that is when Peter Seidler died.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we've talked about this. He had one goal, and that was to bring San Diego a championship any way possible. And when he got sick a second time,
Is that every owner's goal? Like,
no, I don't think so.
Should be.
Well, we could have that discussion. No, that's not.
I know what you're saying. He was going all out. Quickly.
He was going all out. And he probably made promises to Manny Machado when he got that extension from the Padres. Hey, we're going to keep doing this, and that's all well and good. And the rest of the family that's in the controlling interest probably doesn't see it that way, and they have some things to work out. What I would say is this, is I would appreciate Manny Machado coming to my defense if I were a Padres fan. Like, hey, we're noticing this in our clubhouse too. But when we get to spring training, I would say we'll talk about it once and get it out of our system and then turn the page. In fact, that if I were Mike Schild, that would be my message. And just say, and some of this is also on AJ Preller. I know that he has to do what's best for the team. And if that means trading guys like Cease and or King, who are in their walk year, and then getting something back that can help you continue to be a part of this for years past 2025, I understand that. But I think if you're AJ Preller, just for the mental health of this franchise, you have to put kind of a timetable on this and say, all right, if I don't get a Cease or King deal done by the middle of spring training, forget it for at least now. I'll revisit it in July. But this team is good enough to make some waves this year. It's a real thin needle they got to thread, but it's still a very talented roster overall. So I just think for the mental health, they all have to kind of get on the same page. I'm talking front office, manager, coaching staff, and players, and put out the same message that it's not healthy if we're still doing conversation at the end of April. Wouldn't you agree?
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, Manny said like we have to rally around the guys that we have here, and they do still have a good roster.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you that will be the message in spring training. There is a future. Now, I don't know what the chances are of this. But there is a future out there that if the Padres really wanted to become sellers, they have a lot to sell. If they wanted to start that rebuild or whatever, and they got a lot, man. You got Suarez, you got Arise, you have King, you have Cease, all these guys you could trade. I mean, in some of those contracts that they have with the big name players, they have to eat some money, but like they have players there, man.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope it doesn't come down to that, because I really do like watching. I think, how could you not like watching this Padres team play baseball? They're so fun. You either love to watch them or you hate watch them, and either way you're watching them.
You're drawn to the
team. You're drawn to this team. So I hope it doesn't come down to that. But if it did, I mean, they could get it done quickly.
All right. Speaking of the Padres, there's more rumors circulating around both Dylan Cease and Michael King. The Cubs are reportedly kicking the tires there. Those two teams do have a trade relationship. Chicago also reportedly talking to free agent third baseman Alex Bregman. So I'm going to give you a bunch of different scenarios. You tell me which one is most likely. The Cubs trade for Cease. The Cubs trade for King. The Cubs sign Bregman. The Cubs make a trade for one of those pitchers and sign Bregman. Or they don't trade for either of those starters and they don't sign Alex Bregman. So I got 5 different scenarios there. You're going to go with 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5?
I would probably go 5. I'm putting Bregman on the Tigers, and the Cubs have a bunch of starting pitching. They don't necessarily need to go out and get a starter. Now you can make the argument that, hey, we have depth. Maybe we want to get a little bit more top heavy. You bring in a guy like Cease or King, like they're definitely going to make you have a better rotation. You're going to sacrifice some depth for probably a better quality top 5. But I don't think the Cubs need to do that. And I don't think they need to give up their prospects. I think they can go into the season right now feeling pretty dang good about their pitching staff. So I think my answer is 5. They don't do that. They've already had a really, really good offseason. If they continue, good for them. But for some reason, I just don't see it happening.
So the question that I have when I'm kicking this one around is, do the Cubs really want to have 3 of their most important players in a walk year if they trade for either King or Cease? They've already got Kyle Tucker, who we know is going to test free agency. Ryan Presley, they just made a trade for. He's going to be the closer, sounds like, but he's in his mid to late 30s, and he's done after this year. And then if you trade for King or Cease, I suppose you could sign him to an extension. But my guess is that those guys will probably test. So I don't know if you want all of that going on at once.
Yeah.
I think they're most likely to sign Bregman out of all of those moves right now.
Okay.
That's what I would say. But I don't think they're likely to sign him. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying
you're 5 with me. Do we agree?
No, you said nothing. You said you don't think they're signing Bregman.
And you just said the same thing. You said they're most likely to,
what
but
I
you
said
don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I don't think that they're the most likely team to sign Bregman. But out of all of these moves, I think the Bregman one is the one that'll come closest.
Okay.
I think that
I got him going to the Tigers.
But fine.
God, I'd love for him to go back to the Astros too. That's still on the table.
Yeah. I think, right? It sounds like it's 4 teams at this point.
What's more fun for baseball? Tigers or Astros getting Bregman? Tigers would be so fun, man. I'd hate it. I mean, both of us would not like that for our respective teams.
Right. Do the if he joins the Tigers, do they become the second best team in the American League?
Oh my gosh. I got to get my rankings together on the American League. I think it goes Yankees 1, and then we don't know, man. I think you
could make an argument for the Tigers. I really believe you could. If he joins that team,
the rotation still is. I guess it's decent. It can be good.
Reese Olson was nasty last year. He didn't win any games, but Reese Olson was great last year.
Cobb and Jack, I think Jack is going to do great there. So okay, you got a top 3 there. Cobb obviously has question marks. When he's healthy, he's good. And then, you have one of the top prospects in all of baseball in Jackson Jobe. So I see what you're saying. Back in the bullpen's great. Bregman makes the offense better. I'd have to think about that. You can't put me on the spot like this.
Okay.
Like, there's got to be a team in the AL West that I think is going to be
I don't know.
there.
Well, let's talk about one of those teams. There was a really interesting, well-done column on MLB.com wondering if Jacob deGrom can be this year's version of Chris Sale. Dude who barely pitches for many years, was awesome, like awesome before injuries, and now in his mid to late 30s, hopefully rebounds. What is your confidence level in deGrom returning to form?
It's very, very high if he's healthy. I mean, like that's just it. I know it's an if, but like if he is healthy, this is the second Tommy John. I think it was great that he came back last year, got a little bit of rust off, had a normal off season. I know that's the caveat to this question is if he's healthy, but right now I kind of always bank on guys being healthy. So I think there's a very, very good chance that he returns to form. Is he going to win the Cy Young like Chris Sale? I don't know, man. That's crazy stuff. But when he's been out there, you go on his Savant page, he hasn't qualified a lot, but it still gives you a little blurry red. He's still an absolute elite pitcher in baseball. He just has to stay on the field. So I'm very confident that he's going to come back and do great things. I'm praying, knocking on wood right now that this guy's healthy because I think a lot of people have forgot just how freaking good this guy is. He hasn't pitched a ton. We know that. But like he is, when he is on, we were calling him like one of the most talented pitchers we've ever seen.
I'll take it a step further. When he was at his apex, because he got started late, remember? He wasn't like some 22-year-old, some 22-year-old out of the gate. When he arrived really in 2015 during their World Series run, he was older. And people started wondering out loud, are we going to have to change the voting thought for the Hall of Fame when we get to a guy like Jacob deGrom, who's obviously not going to have the counting numbers at all in terms of strikeouts and wins and all that sort of stuff? Are we going to have to change it? And then some of the stuff that is just horrible in terms of the number of innings he threw. 190 over like 5-year span for a while? Just horrific because of these injuries. But last year we got a little taste of it. And what was it? 3 starts, less than 11 innings. You could definitely see it. 14 strikeouts, I believe, only 1 walk. It's pretty good. And if you're thinking, well, it's a second Tommy John, can he really do it? Well, his teammate, Nathan Eovaldi, has been outstanding, a 2-time All-Star, World Series champion since he had his second Tommy John. Daniel Hudson threw more than 400 games after his second Tommy John. So it can be done. I'm rooting for it. Now, if I set the over-under on starts by Jacob deGrom this year at 24.5, what are you taking?
I would take the under, but that's because, I'm a savvy guy. My optimistic side would be like, let's go, man. Give me 27. Hey, 2000 and what is this, 18?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, 2018. He won the Cy Young, obviously, but finished 5th in the MVP. Now, I love my guy Yelly, and he did 1 dot at that year right on the nose.
Mm-hmm.
But you're telling me that Javi Baez and his 881 OPS, Nolan Arenado, Freddie Freeman with just, decent years, WARs in the 6 or the 5 was better than a guy that had a 9.9 WAR.
That's incredible.
Go look at his season, 1.7 ERA, and we're freaking – that's insane to me. The voters, you messed that up. You fucking messed that up.
So what, would you have voted him second?
I would have voted him first.
That
year he was absolutely filthy. I love you, Yelly. I'm sorry. I'm happy you won it. You got a massive deal because of it. But – Chris, 32 games started, 217 innings pitched, 1.7. He had a 2.18 ERA plus, a 1.98 FIP, 0.4 homers per 9.
0.4.
He still has the all-time record for strikeout to walk ratio, 5.41.
Yeah.
That's all-time.
It's pretty good, man. Yeah. He's got over 40 WAR, even with all that limited time. Pretty good. All right, keep it going. He's a freakish athlete, too. Great athlete. So maybe he'll pitch till he's 40. Who knows? My confidence level is, if I were to rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, it's just in the middle because the health thing scares the. I'm not going to be scared anymore, though. I just want him to go pitch, and whatever happens, happens. He'll be fine, either one way or another.
Do you want him to grow the hair out again?
Ooh, I don't know if he can. How many kids?
What do you mean?
2 or 3?
He could grow that thing out. And guess what? He made enough money. If he wanted to, he could do it.
How old is too old to start to grow out the hair to like rock star status?
You can always grow your hair out. Like, I don't care. You know what people are like mad at midlife crises? Whatever, bro. I'm like kind of there. I'm like, what can I do?
Did you ever have long hair?
Crisis? I did.
How long?
I did. Oh, shoot, man. In high school, I looked like Jacob deGrom. It was very long. I cut it for the draft. And then throughout the minor leagues, I had hair. I mean, there's some baseball cards, mine prospect cards, where I had really long hair.
What's really long? Point.
Like,
oh.
Yeah, mine's really curly, though, when I grow it out. Like, it gets really, wingy.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this. In 2012, I was, a scrub at the beginning of the year. I cut my hair. I tried to donate it to Locks of Love, but it wasn't long enough. I thought I wanted to hire OPS. To Locks of Love. Yeah. So I shaved my head. From long hair, I shaved my head, and then I just went off. So I had the reverse effect.
Nice. Good job by you.
Yeah.
I had it long my freshman year in college.
I would have loved to see that.
Longish. Oh, I'll find a picture for you.
Yeah, there's some.
That doesn't even look. Is that Brian Dozier?
He wishes.
Is that really
Look at that
you?
good-looking shortstop right there.
Okay.
Oh, man, I used to have such a good butt. My butt's too small now.
Well, come on over here. I'll tell you how to beef that thing up. I do beep when I walk backward. All right, we are back at it again later in the week as we are inching closer to spring training, and we love it. For our one-of-a-kind producer, Dan Rourke, the uber-talented and used to have flowy hair, Trevor Plouffe, I am Chris Rose. We will see you later this week on Baseball Today.